Hey guys, Kevin here, and today I have a special treat for all of you. You see, today I have my first Antifa Idiot Challenge since starting this channel. Now, on my last channel, I had a lot more subs, so I had a lot more people commenting. And what I would do is, in the comment section, when somebody had a certain left lean and they were trying to troll me, I would offer them a simple challenge. Name 3 policies of the left that you think will help America. Now, most of them couldn't name 3, but for those who could, I would offer them my challenge, and I would then make a video addressing the 3 policies that they thought would help America, and I would debunk them, offer a poignant rebuttal, and wipe the floor with their behinds. So, today, I had my first challenger since we started this channel, and he goes by the name of Proletarian Guard. So you know this is going to be fun. This genius, he actually wrote in his first comment, "So, in your perfect world, the 3 billion people in the world would all be business owners?" Question mark. LOL. So that's what we're dealing with here, guys. First of all, there's not 3 billion people in the world. There haven't been since the early 1900s. There's 7 billion people in the world. And no, they're not going to all be business owners. Obviously, some of them are going to be stay-at-home moms. Some are going to be teachers. Some are going to be apprentices, learning skills so they can start a business. But no, in my ideal world, first of all, we wouldn't have big corporations, so there'd be a lot more small businesses. Because, you know, big corporations just get licensed from the government, and they're monopolies that partner with big government to survive. That's how they become monopolies. That's how they stay monopolies. You know, I would want corporations to exist, but they'd be able to fail if they make bad decisions. Instead, right now, we have stuff like the airlines and the telecommunication businesses and the auto industry that are always getting bailed out or being supported by government. So I don't like that kind of stuff. That's not free market. But yes, in an ideal world, a lot more people would own small businesses. And everybody has the ability to learn skills and start a business. Unlike this guy's ideal world, which would be socialist or communist, where everybody would be stuck as a factory worker. That is what a proletarian is, and this guy's name is Proletarian Guard. Anyway, I'll go ahead and get to his 3 policies that will help benefit America from a left-wing perspective, and we'll debunk them. Alright, so let me go ahead and debunk the 3 policies our Antifa idiot said he thought would help America. First, he says universal health care. Well, let me go ahead and tell you, as somebody who was in the healthcare field, who's married to a doctor, this is something that will never work, okay? First of all, the average cost per person for care in America per year is $6,000. When you multiply 6,000 times 350 million people in America, that's more than our entire budget for the year. I know you might say, well, there's socialized medicine already with healthcare through Medicare or through the VA. Well, guess what? I have VA healthcare for life, but I don't go because my friends died waiting to get care from the VA. I got addicted to Oxycontin waiting to have surgery through the VA. It is a nightmare, and the VA gets billions of dollars a year from the government. More money than most hospitals, but they can't make it work because the government cannot run healthcare well. I know you might say, well, what about universal, like Medicare? Well, Medicare is also bankrupt. We're always having to dip into other funds to fund Medicare. And if you did fund Medicare, if you taxed all the rich people in America at 90%, it would only fund Medicare for maybe a few years. All right? It's just such a tremendous expense. Now, I know you'll probably say, well, countries in Europe have socialized healthcare. Countries in Scandinavia, they do it. Why can't we? Well, first of all, those countries are like the size of small states, and they don't have the huge welfare state we have here in America. But on top of that, we're paying for those countries. Those countries get billions of dollars from the U.S. to house our nuclear weapons arsenal. Now, I know you leftists claim to be against war and against nuclear weapons. I am too. So I doubt you'd want your healthcare, your freebies being handed out because of some nuclear weapons storage deal. But guess what? Even those countries in Scandinavia, now that they're bringing in all these third world imports, all these refugees, who abuse the welfare system, those countries can no longer pay for these systems. They're having to constantly vote to cut different levels of care and to move funding into the healthcare system because it's so stressed. So yeah, universal healthcare, it sounds like a nice idea, but even if you had it, you'd still complain because the people going to private hospitals would have such better levels of care. They'd have stuff like life extension technology, better testing, things like that. You'd still complain. You'd say, well, that's not fair. We're not equal. And you wouldn't be. People aren't equal. So for his next policy, he said would make America great, our Antifa idiot listed universal education. All right, so the same thing applies to universal education that applies to universal healthcare. Even if we taxed all the billionaires at 90%, it wouldn't even pay for a few years of this stuff. You'd have to cut all the other welfare programs across the board. Our average university tuition right now in America is something like $10,000 a semester. Okay, do you think the state's going to pay for that? We have $1.4 trillion of student loan debt right now. They're not even able to pay that off. And look, have you ever been to a university in a socialist country? Sure, some of these countries in Scandinavia have their vanguard university that has nice labs and nice libraries, new buildings. But most of those universities in socialist countries look like our community colleges. Do you think the state's going to pay for you to take African American dance theory or women's studies? No, they're not. Here's the thing, right? The same thing that makes our public schools suck is what's going to make public universities suck. And that is corruption, bad use of money, teachers unions that protect bad teachers. Right now, our universities get all kinds of funding because of the free market. They're able to sell research, so they get millions of dollars to pay for nice labs and new equipment. They sell sports ticket and make millions of dollars on sports. That pays for new dorms and nice admissions buildings. They sell tuition. I mean, look, that's what's driving all of this. Do you think the state is going to pay $10,000 a year for people to go there and waste their money? No. All right, admissions processes will become harder, and you'll probably have less people ending up in university. So people are not going to be equal. And I guarantee you those professors who filled your head with this Marxist BS are not going to take a pay cut. These guys are making $250,000 a year at most universities. But they want socialism for America, right? Yeah, right. Here's the thing. People are never going to be equal. Because even if you got free healthcare and free university, you'd still complain that the people getting those private services, paying extra to go to private universities and private hospitals, you'd complain that they're elitists and that we're not equal, that they are somehow taking from you. And you know what? People aren't equal. I'm sorry, it's the truth. All right, so for his third policy that he said would make America great, the Antifa idiot listed wealth redistribution. And that's really vague, so I had to ask him what he meant by that. And this is what he replied. You pay for them through taxation. The difference between capitalism and socialism is the surplus that is created by the working class is allocated for social services such as healthcare, education, etc. That's why we see socialist economies going to space first like the USSR and finding a cure for cancer like Cuba. I have to stop there. First of all, Cuba does not have a cure for cancer. The U.S. has found some cures for certain types of cancers, and that was paid for because really capitalistic companies sold expensive drugs to pay for new research and development, and they were able to find cures for certain types of cancer. One thing that comes to mind is treating leukemia with modified HIV virus. That is a new test that they're doing right now that's been very successful. But no, Cuba's hospitals suck. They're horrible. They're hellholes. Look, as somebody who's married to a doctor from Latin America whose friends lived and worked in Cuban hospitals, I can tell you, Cuba is a nightmare. Most of their hospitals are the same size as my house, about 3,000 or 4,000 square feet. They're huge open rooms with no air conditioning, and they don't even have basic supplies like IV fluids. People have to smuggle in supplies from the black market just so their relatives can get treated. I know you probably watched the Michael Moore documentary where he went to a Cuban hospital and said how great it was. That was the hospital that they used for the Castro family, okay? So yeah, the leaders have a nice hospital. But even that one, Michael Moore had to go around with an armed escort so he didn't go in the wrong rooms. As far as the USSR going into space first, that's because this was right after World War II. The USSR had invaded all these countries, taken resources, and on top of that, they had a slave labor force. People died for the USSR to build their space program. They worked people literally to death. On top of that, they stopped all of the production in their country. You know, their whole industries in the USSR ground to a halt while they were working on the space program. People didn't have cars. People didn't have hot water or products in their home, new products like toilets, things like that. The USSR was a nightmare. Millions of people died in that country so Stalin could build his big enterprises. Anyway, I'll go on. In capitalism, the surplus is stolen from the working class to private individuals, richer and richer, therefore impoverishing the country. That's what we see. Most of the world is capitalist and most of the world is poor. Under socialism, there is no unemployment. Everyone who can work will work. All right, so most of the world is poor, but that's not because of capitalism. Most of those countries are socialists or communists that are poor. Or they have, you know, warlords in countries like Africa that have destroyed those countries, and that's because they have low IQ populations and bad cultures. But no, most of the capitalist world is wealthy. I mean, look at all of the West. There's not any socialist country that I can think of where people don't live in hell on earth, where people are happy, where life expectancy is higher, where people, you know, have basic services. I mean, look, when I lived in different socialist countries, most of them did not have hot water or air conditioning. People live like victims. They live in small houses with huge barbed wire fences all around them because they're afraid their neighbors are going to steal all the things that they've been able to buy, what little they have. It's horrible. I'll keep going. Under socialism, there's no unemployment. Lie. There's lots of people who are homeless and poor under socialism and who aren't working. Sure, the government might, you know, give them some money to do some menial task. But look, Cuba people make like $18 a month. That's still unemployment if you ask me. Everyone who can work will work. Under capitalism, unemployment is a tool of class oppression that capitalists use to increasingly drive the cost of production down at the expense of putting people out of work. That doesn't really happen. Anybody who lives in a capitalist country is making more than anybody who lives in a socialist country and has more access to more goods and services. Everybody in capitalist countries can own a car. Everybody in capitalist countries has the ability to get rich. If you don't believe me, I was a drug addict for 6 years. And in a very short time, less than a decade, I made my way into the upper middle class and very well into the upper middle class. So I don't know where you get this stuff, but I'm sorry, dude. I wiped the floor with your butt. And, you know, bring on the next Antifa Idiot challenge.